I am Captain Logan, and this is day 276 of Spawn Year. I've gone out of my way not to point out every grammar and punctuation mistake I've noticed in these comics, though they've been numerous. After my initial dismay that such a popular, mass-produced phenomenon like Spawn so often read like it was printed the day the first draft was written in Todd McFarlane's basement, and not one other pair of eyes landed on it until it invaded comic book shelves, I quickly became accustomed to it. I'm pretty sure the low standards of quality of basic usage of grammar in these comics has forever contaminated my own writing. But I haven't read any YouTube comments, tweets, or texts in 9 months, and the quality standards are at least miles above a lot of those, so maybe not. So while I've curbed my grammar Nazi tendencies for the most part for the last few months, I feel the need to switch that part of my brain back on this entry, because I was so distracted by the overwhelming amount of rookie mistakes in this particular issue. This will also serve as an opportunity to point out a mistake that crops up frequently that I haven't yet addressed. And yes, I'm sure this is the Spawn calling the reanimated corpse undead. Undoubtedly, dear reader, you've encountered copious and perhaps hilarious careless mistakes in my own writing. But in my defense, I have neither time nor ability to revise and no copy editor to go over my green-blooded handwriting in red. That, and I've been doing the same monotonous chore for so many days, it's a wonder I'm still writing in a language invented by humans. Let the grammar policing commence. It seems that between Richard Starkings and Comic Craft's Oscar Gangora, commas were deemed superfluous because they're often missing when a sentence is begging for them. And I can't recall ever seeing a credit for 2 letterers. You'd think you'd see fewer mistakes when it takes more than one guy to put the words on the page. Stand down, Liam. Needs a comma before Liam. She's your sister, you stupid beast, comma after sister. And how about the classic missing apostrophe? Somebody here seems confused about possessives. If I did not, you would be dead, and I would be my sister's killer. What is a sister's killer? So no apostrophe to denote ownership there, but then check this out. If it's the dress that bothers you, brothers, then I will take it off. Nobody get excited, this girl's got another set of clothes on under the dress, by the way. Yeah, I was a little surprised myself after the barely clothed 14-year-old mauve. Anyway, what does bother own? Okay, never mind. That is internet comment bad. Or hey, let's just drop S's altogether. If she remains in Whitome, she would not fight as her brother fight. Mr. Niles, I don't know if these errors were in your script or if your words were transcribed incorrectly, but you're starting to look like English isn't your first language. Wacky word order? We've got that too. When the enemy would strike again? Well, it's a little premature to cap that phrase off with a question mark. It's not even a sentence, much less a question. The major recurring grammatical problem resurfacing here concerns tense. On the same page, the narration describing Raven's motivations for running away from home can't decide if these events are happening now or if they already happened. Reading this issue is like doing an 8th grade English assignment. The following comic book is riddled with grammar and punctuation errors. Circle and correct each error. I've complained about the overly wordy narration in Dark Ages before, and this one's no different, but even so, that's a staggering lack of editorial oversight in 22 pages, and a lot of the mistakes are in dialogue. That's not even all of it. There are several more absent commas I didn't even mention. Aside from the comic doubling as an unintentional puzzle book, this is Steve Niles' most solid effort yet. The issue is titled The Beast, and as he sets up all his players for this new story arc, Niles promises, I think, to finally reveal who the true Beast of Rael is. Niles' first arc was so all over the place, I didn't trust him to ever tie up that loose end. This one is surprisingly coherent and straightforward. Covenant gets lost in the woods, must have lost his infernal internal compass along with his necroplasm, having traveled further into the forest outside his old stomping grounds than he ever had. He meets a man there named Dumas, and he has something in common with Covenant. He, too, has been accused of being the Beast, not because of supernatural powers, but because of his scientific abilities. I like his introduction. He immediately demonstrates that prowess by creating an explosion, mistaking Covenant at first for an intruder. and Covenant demonstrates his old-world ignorance when he assumes Dumas is some kind of sorcerer. I'm intrigued by Covenant's new ally. He uses that false perception to his advantage, letting the locals believe he's the monster in order to stay secluded. He cherishes his solitude. It's interesting that this man of science believes he and Covenant to be brought together by fate, and he seems to have insight into Covenant's state of being. Dumas knows he's the Hellspawn and corrects him when he calls himself Covenant. You were Covenant. Now you are something else altogether. You have another name, a name that you have yet to discover. How does he know all this? I'm compelled to learn more about this man. I am resisting Niall's continuous insertion of convoluted ideas that never really worked in the main book. Is this questioning of Covenant's true identity an issue of literal fact? This guy walks in, talks like Covenant, but actually has nothing that belongs to the original? Or is it an existential issue? Going back to ignorant people, there's an important subplot that furthers Gareth's journey as Roman Catholics, mistakenly thinking they're following a righteous path and having no understanding about what the God they serve truly is, just like Covenant during the Crusades, managed to get their hands on Covenant's necroplasm, which Gareth has now failed to protect. So now Heaven's side has access to infernal matter. Why didn't we just skip all that rubbish in the prison arc and get right to the juicy stuff? There's potential for some exciting developments in the Celestial War here, although I guess it'd be more interesting if that happened in the present. I mean, we all know both sides are basically at a standstill for the next several hundred years. And the rest of the issue is devoted to a young woman who is overwhelmed with a fighter spirit and can't help but be a warrior despite the societal expectations of her gender. She's supposed to be married to a boring man she doesn't love. So after she tries to spar with her brothers and her taunts make one of them insane enough he beats the tar out of her, she realizes she'll never be allowed to do anything but breed children, so she runs away. Pretty typical situation, the free-spirited, rebellious girl living in a man's world who won't let society define her. And that's all just set up so far. She hasn't intersected with the main story yet. And I guess it wouldn't be a Dark Ages story without a voluptuous warrior woman in the mix. Maybe this one won't be so predictable, and she'll make it through this arc alive. I wonder how common a name Raven was in the 1300s. Anyway, decent introduction to a new story and absolutely hideous grammar and punctuation. Signed, Captain Logan.